Welcome back, Kaiju fans, to another crisp review. And finally, I am doing my review on the X-plus Godzilla 2003. This is the Tokyo SOS Godzilla. I've had it for a while, and I figured I'd finally do my review on it. So, just getting right into it. This is the figure in all of its glory, standing here. It's in the 30 centimeter scale by X-plus, and mine is the PX Previews reissue, which is still pretty hard to come across these days. But getting right into it, the figure is in this nice Godzilla color. It's a very nice charcoal gray with, I don't know if you can. They're barely visible, so it's going to be hard to tell if you can actually see them on camera. But very slight glints of like lighter blues and things. Like you can see this, like these light lines right here. They're actually almost like a very light blue color. So that's interesting, and it has that same scheme for all of his skin across the entire body. And then the spines or fins, whatever you want to call them, are a nice off-white color. They're very light, and they have the same kind of gray, charcoal gray undertones in the center. It's actually nearly identical color to his skin, which looks awesome. I think that really accentuates the basic overall feel of this Godzilla. The spines have this very gradual kind of like extension to the white color. And then that same color is carried all the way down the spines to the tip of his tail, and that is very nicely painted on there. You can't complain with that whatsoever. Moving on to his kind of chest and face region, the scar on his chest is in that same light blue color. It really brings it out, makes it stand out a ton. And his face, we'll have to get that to focus here. There we go. Nice, light, more of a brownish off-white color for his teeth with darker patches on there. The tongue is a nice pinkish color, a lot lighter than the color that the inside of his mouth is on the bottom, but on the roof of his mouth, it's a very, very light color, lighter than the tongue, so there's a nice contrast between those three parts of the mouth. His eyes, we'll have to try to get as much focusing on there as I can. They're a nice brown color. They look really, really nice. You cannot complain with the quality that is on that eye right there. Something I've noticed on some of my other Millennium Godzillas is the eyes are very faded and whited over, where on this one it is very, very standing out, and it's just exceptional, the work that goes into the smallest details like that. And then for his fingernails and toenails, you can see that they are both this brown color. They have a little bit of a lighter tint to them at the beginning of the skin and then get to a more darker brown on the outside. So that all looks great. And then, of course, the skin detailing everywhere is just amazing. I'm so impressed with this figure. Just look at this. Hopefully it is coming in as clear as possible and is not going to try and keep focusing on my hand. I'm doing my best. There we go. Just look at the skin detailing everywhere on this figure. On the arms and legs, down to the bumps on the spines. Everything. The head, with all the little micro spines on the head. Those look great. And even with a back profile, you can see the spikes coming off the side of his neck with that traditional kind of like Cobra-style neck that some of the Millennium Godzillas have. I was always a fan of that. I like this design more than the skinny neck Godzillas from previous generations. So that looks amazing. And then underneath his mouth, the chin is also detailed perfectly. There is nothing wrong about this Godzilla whatsoever. And then, obviously, all the way down the tail, everything is looking fantastic. No problems whatsoever. And then there is No design on the bottom of the feet, but that is where the X-plus branding is for the 2014 release of this one with the 2010 modeling from Plex. So just incredible, incredible, incredible. And then the textured on the bottom of the tail looks amazing as well. So that's it for his basic detail and coloring. This is the only X-Plus that I picked up without the original box because I bought it off somebody online, but in the box I am assuming that it comes in 3 pieces like the '89 Godzilla, because there is the seam down here and then there is another seam right there for the tail. There's 2 spots where it shifts and it's not glued at all, so I'm assuming those 2 pieces are detached in the box. When I received it, it was just this part and this part. The end part of the tail was still attached, and I just plugged those 2 together, heated up with the hairdryer. You know the drill with figures that come in pieces. Be as gentle as possible and do it when they're as warm as possible so there is no risk of damaging the figure. Because those are separations for packaging purposes, those seams are more noticeable in comparison to some of the other ones. At least it's, blended in with the tail segmentation, so it's not extremely noticeable, but you can tell that this piece right here and this piece right here are separate from the rest of the figure. The seams elsewhere, like the ones underneath the legs right here, are pretty... They aren't that noticeable. There's a little bit of gloss underneath the kneecaps where I believe some of the glue might have been leaking out. That's going to be different for everyone. And there is seam right here across the arm, and you can tell pretty clearly where the head portion, the top head portion, is mounted to the neck, but not so much with anything else in that region. For whatever reason on mine, the head is a little bit more glossy than the rest of the body, so it's kind of an odd appearance, but nothing that I'm really going to complain about too much with the overall quality of this figure so far. But that's really it for the seams. Not too bad, a little bit noticeable, but there is much worse in the X-Plus industry than these seams right here, so I can't complain with that situation at all. Now, we can't talk about Tokyo SOS Godzilla without bringing out Tokyo SOS Kiryu. And the reason I picked up this Godzilla in the first place is because I purchased this Kiryu when it was re-released in, I think, 2016. My memory's a little shoddy on when I got them. But these 2 together, just look at them. You can't go wrong with this. They look absolutely perfect next to each other. Just getting ready to square up and go at it, Tokyo SOS style. So there's no complaints with the comparison between these 2 figures whatsoever. I highly recommend picking up both of them if you're going to get one or the other. Just have a set to look this fantastic. I mean, you can't go wrong. Look at how amazing these 2 figures look like next to each other. And then putting out another Millennium figure from the 30 centimeter line. This is the Godzilla 2000 or 1999, and they're very similar styled Godzilla, but obviously the figure for the 2001 is so much more bulky and takes up so much more space because it was a bulkier design Godzilla, but they have the very reptilian-esque features with them. And this is what I mean with the super whited out glossy eyes that some of the other Millennium X Pluses have. You can see how much less white that has in his eye compared to the 2003 Godzilla on the left. And in case you're curious, this is going to be how big it looks next to some other Godzilla 2003s. It's the theater exclusive Bandai on the right. And this was a very good looking Bandai figure of this Godzilla. It was the first incarnation of this Godzilla that I picked up in figure form. So this isn't a bad alternative if you can't afford the X-Plus. And then even closer to that is the Banprestro, and they're literally in the same pose. I think that it was intentional on one of their parts, but their leg spacing, the way their arms are, and the roaring pose, they are literally in identical poses, so you can't go wrong with that. So in my overall opinion, the X-Plus Godzilla 2003 is an exceptional piece of work. It's not one of the ones sculpted by Yuji Sakai, but that doesn't matter because I don't see any flaws with this sculpt whatsoever. I think it captures the image of Godzilla 2003's suit perfectly. No complaints whatsoever. The only things that are kind of strange are the weird glossy parts. But, I mean, when you're dealing with a figure that is mass-produced, things like that are going to happen. So, don't let that discourage you from picking one up. Pricing, on the other hand, is something that might discourage people. When I purchased this, it was an impulse buy because I had the Kiryu. I saw it on eBay for $150 with free shipping, and I figured I'm probably not going to see this figure for less than $150 or anything around that anytime soon. So I just went ahead and ordered it, got it sent out, and I have not seen it for $150 or less since then. Figure usually floats between $200 and $300 depending on who's trying to sell it. So I would recommend trying to buy it from somebody you know has it and might strike you a deal, because finding it online is a bit of a challenge if you want to get a reasonable price. I probably wouldn't pay $300 for it, but $200's looking a little bit more acceptable. Unless it gets reissued again in the near future, I don't see its price coming down anytime soon. So if you're a huge fan of Godzilla 2003, or the Kiryu Saga Godzillas in general, or the Millennium Godzillas, I would pick it up as soon as you possibly can, because X-pluses rise in price over time. That's just the way they are, because the harder they are to find, the more people ask for them. But that's going to be it for this review today, guys. I really, really love this figure. I definitely recommend this X-plus above a lot of the other ones to anybody collecting because of how fantastic it looks. Its painting is, it's hard to mess up something as basic as this. The sculpt is fantastic. The seams aren't that noticeable compared to a lot of the other X-pluses we've seen in the past. And honestly, it's just an overall solid X-plus, and it looks amazing with that Kiryu, especially with the reissue of the 2002 Kiryu with the battle pack coming out soon. You might want to get a Godzilla to go with that if you're thinking about getting this one. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. I appreciate it a lot. As always, liking, commenting, and sharing really helps out my channel. And make sure you're subscribed if you want to stay up to date on the latest kaiju news and crisp reviews.